And because it wasn't just that order, the fentanyl order Jackie was reporting on that came from the president today in terms of directions at corporate America. He also tweeted he was ordering American companies to immediately start looking for alternatives to China, make their products, at least as one of those alternatives, back here in the U.S. So on the legal questions surrounding that, Attorney Domenic Romano joins us now with all the caveats in place. That we've seen similar tweets from this president over the years, and people say, well, do you take it literally, do you not? But assuming that the tweet's a presidential statement, what are the legal questions it raises from your end?
Sure. Well, quite frankly, he has no authority. We're not living in a monarchy. It's called private enterprise for a reason. The president has no authority to order private companies abroad to do anything, U.S. companies for that matter, without congressional action or without some other directive. Barring the declaration of emergency powers for a very specific reason, the president can't make that blanket declaration. He can say anything he wants, but he won't be able to enforce it.
It's interesting you bring up emergency powers, which of course we had a debate about during the immigration back and forth. Nothing applies in this case or could be used?
Correct. Not yet, at least. If China were to do something extreme, then perhaps.
Okay. What does that mean? What would that mean legally? Do something extreme?
Well, if there was a specific urgent emergency, the president could invoke the IEEPA legislation that would give him certain powers, like he tried to invoke with Mexico. But this blanket, or I hereby declare that U.S. companies should stop having a presence in China or pull out of China, that's completely unenforceable. Now, he can say what he wants, but it has no teeth.
Couldn't do it. We've been flashing up a number of statistics while you've been speaking. You're looking at GDP growth in the two countries, but previously we were looking at basically where products were made and which countries they're made in, as we know. And some of those numbers are a couple years old, and maybe some supply chains have started to shift. But China is a huge number there, and it would be difficult for many of these companies to make changes quickly, as has been pointed out in the past, those that haven't already started to make some shifts. But the president, even if he legally can't demand it, Dominic, he can make it, I guess, and already is to some degree, more difficult or try to change the incentives. Perhaps that's what he's referring to, but that's what you do in these trade wars, I guess, or try to do.
Right. Well, he has influence. Obviously, the market has reacted to his tweeting, but it's very impractical. What he's asking for is very impractical, as we've heard. Some of the reactions from some of the CEOs and some of the companies. There's so many U.S. retailers doing business. There are stores. There are leases in China. What, everyone's going to pull out now just because the president tweeted this morning? Unlikely.
Right. So again, some do because the costs go up and it makes more sense for them too, or the uncertainty is there. But if you're established, and the reasons that we've gone through it a number of times, but some of the big companies have a harder time doing that. A final point on a legal question, I think maybe it's important on a day like this for you. The president does have a lot of power in trade, though, just on the issue of trade versus years and years ago. People say, well, have we ever been down this road before? Really, the Great Depression days, Smoot-Hawley, those are a couple of members of Congress. So we've changed a lot. The president does have a lot of unilateral power when it comes to just trade decisions, right?
You're right. The president does have a certain amount of power with regard to trade delegated by Congress. But ultimately, it's Congress that has the power to regulate international trade. Congress might pass a law that could limit U.S. companies doing business abroad, but the president can't unilaterally declare companies to pull out of China. He's not a king. Right. He's a president.
All right, Dominic, thanks for your analysis today. We appreciate it. Melissa.